Historical economic rules of business models have shifted due to the internet making products more accessible as technology turns mass markets into millions of niches. The concept of the long tail therefore has huge ramifications for our media and culture if followed to its logical conclusions. Looking first at the traditional model, businesses such as Waterstones, Blockbuster and HMV have tended to trade a lot of very little choice as they use market intelligence to store only products that they know sell in large quantities. These products need to earn their keep, and thus traditional retailers would only carry content that would generate sufficient demand. These products also have to aggregate large audiences in a relatively small geographical location in order for people to make money. The best way for companies to do this was to make standardized products or hits. As our tastes derive from the mainstream, many of us are happy with this model, but many also want more. However, traditionally, this is the world of scarcity, and it was not possible, at least as easy anyway. But now, with online distribution and retail, we are entering a world of abundance. The differences are profound. Endless choices are creating unlimited demand as the constraints of traditional models have been broken as storing, distribution and market dynamics have changed. The long tail effect happens when the exponentially growing availability of stuff like news, consumer products, entertainment, and even software becomes readily available as shelf space is deemed obsolete. The ease and delivery options widens and search technologies have meant that we can find both popular and niche products without a problem. As companies have spent years looking at the hits, of which the head of the model is representative, newer online companies can look away from the left of this curve and focus also on the right, the long tail. It may be easy to explain using a case study. Let's take Blockbuster and Netflix. Holder states that a typical Blockbuster houses roughly 3,000 DVD titles, while Netflix has approximately 90,000. The DVDs that Blockbuster store stocks would have been specifically chosen to appeal to the mainstream consumers in which large numbers are purchased, representing the head of the scale. If you're running a store of such with a finite amount of space on your shelves, you'd naturally be looking for a cut-off point that's not too far from the peak. However, for online brands like Netflix, with the ability to offer downloads and streaming, there are no limitations of shelf space, rent, wages, and geography, and they deal with hundreds of thousands of titles, both mainstream and obscure. Where we once assumed there was no reasonable demand for the niches, new technological environments counteract this. Although the demand to the right of the curve is not on the same level as the head, and none of the movies are individually popular, collectively there are so many that they represent a substantial market. Christopher Noll suggested back in 2003 that on any given day, in fact 98% of the 15,000 titles in Netflix inventory are in circulation with customers. As fast as Netflix adds more titles to the listings, they find an audience, even if it's only a handful of people somewhere in the world. That is long tail, out there where you can find the obscure, the old, and a little bit strange. In fact, if you combine the non-hits of the long tail, you can probably establish a market that rivals the hits. The effects of the increase in internet and social media mean the original marketplace begins to fracture as we can now sell small amounts of a large choice of products or individualized goods. Due to the known cost of supply and demand, the nature of the market has changed as demand shifts towards niches or demand for new content, and thus the economics of providing them improve further. This creates a positive feedback loop in the rise in online markets and increase in the long tail, transforming entire industries and our culture for years to come.